this is What Effie Reads, and this video is going to be my vlog for the first and second week of Magical Readathon. Magical Readathon is a month-long readathon that is kind of part readathon, part role-playing game. It is from the mind of the wonderful G at Book Roast, and it's just so much fun. You basically create a character, and through the various readathons, your character develops a career. They can go on quests. It's so much fun. My character is currently trying to become a moon warden, and I'm not going to go too much into the specifics of the readathon in this video, but I will link the announcement for this round of the readathon in the description. Because the first week of the month I was participating in Spookathon, my thoughts for the books that I read during the first week are contained in my Spookathon vlog, which I will also link in the description. But this video will kind of just encompass my second week of the readathon, and at the end I will go through all of the books that I have read so far and what prompts I have fulfilled and which ones I still need to fulfill. I've done an absolutely appalling job of vlogging this week, but also I haven't finished anything yet. Like, I'm pretty close to finishing a book, and I'm very happy for that. So I am reading this book, Kills by Readathon, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, I've got maybe 50 pages left and I'm just so hooked on it. Like, usually I read an ebook before I go to sleep because I only have like an overhead light, so reading a physical book is not ideal, but I just couldn't put it down this morning. So like, I went to bed and I took it with me and was like straining to read in the darker light conditions. But I've read like 140 pages today, which is unheard of for me on a work day. But as I say, I just could not put it down. And I think I'm going to be finishing Outlander at work. Not Outlander, like the 9th Outlander book, Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone. I think I'm going to be finishing that at work tonight. And maybe also listening to Three's a Crowd. But yeah, that's kind of my updates for now. Not very interesting, but they're there.
When you're not here, the sun don't shine. When you're not near, I don't feel like I do when you're with me.
So I finally finished a couple of books. I finished this book, Kills by Readathon. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun wee ride, and I found that the reveal of the murderer was pretty satisfying. Like, I didn't expect it. Like, I kind of had an inkling maybe, but it wasn't so predictable that I felt like I saw it a mile off. But it also made sense, which I think sometimes thrillers have a really hard time finding that balance of a killer that makes sense, but also you don't see coming a mile off, and it found a really good balance. I definitely recommend it. It wasn't quite what I'd expected going in, but it was still a really enjoyable story. And the other book that I finished was Three's a Crowd by Simon Booker. And I'm going to be talking in spoilers. I don't do it very often, but I feel like to get the full understanding of this book, I am going to be talking in full spoilers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a spoiler warning up on screen, and if you don't want to be spoiled for this book, just skip ahead to where that spoiler warning is no longer on screen. So I've just popped you on my tripod as my arm was starting to hurt with holding up my camera, and I feel like I'm gonna have a lot to say about this book. So first things first, what this book is about. The basic concept is that it's a romance where this woman, who I've already forgotten her name, I want to say Harriet, but I don't think that's her name. This woman starts dating these two men. One of them is 10 years younger than her, one of them is 15 years older than her, and she's dating them for a little while, getting to know them, and then it turns out that they are father and son. It sounds a little bit contrived, but the whole thing is that the father and son are kind of estranged. They are aware of who each other is, but because they're not a major part of each other's life, it didn't kind of come up in conversation. There was one point where the father character was chatting to the woman and being like, oh, I've got a son called Tom. And Tom's a pretty common name, so they don't think anything of it. So that's it. And it's told in their 3 point of views. But then all of a sudden you get a 4th point of view, which is the grandfather. And yeah, it's, as far as romances go, I don't think it's really a romance. I think it's been marketed like a romance, but not really, and it's not even really a love triangle. There's a little bit of dating at the start, and both the men seem to be fighting for her affections, but during her point of view she's like, yeah, I'm not seeing it with either of them. I don't really want to be with either of them. I presume they're on the same page as me. And then in their point of views, we're like, okay, how am I going to win her? How am I going to win her? And stuff. And it's not great. The son, his perspective is absolutely awful. It's borderline incel. He thinks he's got a right to her, and is so jealous and territorial over her. And then the father's not a great person, but he's a lot more appealing. And then the grandfather perspective seemed really odd. And then, so when it first was introduced, I was like, oh, this is really strange. And then there was this weird subplot about diamonds, and now they had to steal these diamonds and find someone to sell the diamonds on so they could get the money back from them. So I was like, oh, okay, so the grandfather's a crook, so that's why we've got the grandfather's perspective. And then it's like, no, actually, turns out the grandfather is actually the father to the son. And there's this whole twisted plot where basically the father's wife cheated on the father with the grandfather. So the son isn't the father's son, the son is the grandfather's son. So they're actually brothers, but he's also kind of his father as well. It's, yeah. And the father knew this from the son's 6th birthday, so he grew up being a cold fish, which is how he's described in the book, to the son, because obviously it's this massive breakdown of trust, and it's all very not great. So it's very odd book, and there was a few moments in it that just didn't like sit quite right. Like there was one point where like they went out to this fancy brunch and they ordered Verve Klingot. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but they ordered this champagne, and it's like fair enough, except that's not a bougie champagne. Like it's not the cheapest, but it's also not like Dom Perignon or however that's pronounced. Like if you're gonna name drop a champagne, name drop a champagne that would be seen as bougie. Like champagne in itself is a bit bougie, but if you're gonna name drop something that actually like is gonna come across that way. And then I can't remember if I had any other issues. Like, sorry, just popping in here as I was editing, I completely forgot to mention that the woman, the 35-year-old character, she repeatedly goes on and on about how much her biological clock is ticking and how much she feels like she's a time bomb and she's running out of time. And it just came across very uncomfortably. And now back to my pre-recorded thoughts. I was a bit shocked when it turned out the grandfather was actually the son's father. And the other issue I had with the book was the way that the mental health was depicted. Now, I can't say from a personal perspective how well it was represented. However, I found it to be quite inconsistent. Like, so I consumed this book as an audiobook, and the woman has these intrusive thoughts, and I think it's described as like pure O or something. It's like a form of OCD. And I had never come across intrusive thoughts being a facet of OCD. So that was new to me. And the way that they are portrayed in the book is this like croaky, evil sounding voice. Is like it's not comfortable the way that they're put across. But then like that's a stylistic choice from the narrator and the producers, like whatever. But what I found frustrating was the way that the intrusive thoughts were presented weren't consistent. So sometimes it would be about harming herself, whether that's through embarrassment or doing things that would be physically harmful to her. And sometimes it would be about harming other people or embarrassing other people or just doing things that would be socially inappropriate. And I don't know if that's the way that for some people intrusive thoughts work, but it bothered me the fact that it wasn't the same throughout. Like it changed depending on, well, it just chopped and changed. Like she just had intrusive thoughts, and then it was all these random things that could be any spectrum of things. But also what bothered me was the fact that it wasn't consistent how these thoughts would pop up. So like sometimes it'd be just like her chilling, and then like there was this thing of like when she's in stressful situations she would get the thoughts more, but then sometimes she just wouldn't have the thoughts. I'm probably doing a really bad job of explaining it, but I just felt like it wasn't done very well. But again, I don't have the personal experience of this particular facet of mental health. Like 100% I get intrusive thoughts, but that's linked to depression and anxiety as opposed to a form of OCD. So yeah, I didn't like the way the intrusive thoughts were presented, but she's not meant to have the same mental health things as me. So it could be good representation, but I don't know. But speaking of mental health, I did really like that the father did have, I think it was depression, and he was taking antidepressants. There was a bit of a strange one where like he just decided to go off his meds, which wasn't great, and I felt like he didn't get any negative effects as a result of just going off his meds. So that wasn't fantastic. I also like the way that the mania was depicted, because there was also like a bipolar tertiary character, and the way that mania was described felt very accurate to my understanding of what mania is like. But overall, like, it was one of those books that clearly wasn't really much of a romance, so it wasn't what I'd gone into the book hoping for. The fact that they were actually brothers made it a little like uncomfortable. Like, father and son was also uncomfortable. Like, it didn't change how uncomfortable it was for me. And like, I'm not a fan of love triangles in general, so I don't know. It was a strange book. I think it's meant to be funny, but I didn't find it funny at all. Like, it was cringe at best. And the way that the characters were depicted felt like caricatures. I don't know. Yeah, not something I would recommend, but also like it's one of those that you've got to read it to believe it type of books. I've read some more books, or rather, I've finished some more books. I feel like I'm finally getting back onto a roll with my reading. Now, these two books were audiobooks that I was consuming, but it's still two more books that I've read. So I finished Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone. And with that book, that brings me up to date with all of the books that are currently published in the Outlander series. It was okay. Like, I think it's probably on a par with the rest of the series. There was some strange language used within it. Like, there was one time where someone was being described, but I feel like it has racial slur connotations behind the particular word. I haven't looked it up, but in my head anyway, I was like, that feels like an odd word choice. And then there was another time where it was talking about someone's parentage, and rather than, saying his parentage or some other more comfortable term, it described the person as a half-breed, and I was like, that's very odd, especially because the character that was thinking this was one of the more modern characters, so definitely wouldn't expect it from them. And then there was just another point where like the kids were described as doing something half-assed, and I was like, how is that in anyone's vocabulary in this book? Which kind of took me out of the story. I have a hard time with like the battle-y bits of it as well. Same as when I read War and Peace. Like, I enjoyed the peace sections, but the war ones were kind of tedious, which I think is what everyone says. And that's kind of my feeling with the Outlander books. Like, I like the peaceful stuff. I like the kind of slice of life aspects, but I just don't care about the battles and stuff. But I've enjoyed seeing where Jamie and Claire's story has gone next, and I just really enjoy kind of following their lives. I had been told, or I went into this book with the understanding that it had a cliffhanger and two characters didn't manage to see one another, but I was wrong on both counts. Like, I guess it's kind of a cliffhanger, but not in any major way. And the two characters that I thought didn't see each other, they do see each other. So that was pretty odd. I'm definitely going to be continuing this series whenever the next book ends up coming out. But I do feel like maybe the author's starting to show her age with some of her word choices. And it was very unusual as well. Like, I don't know if it's just this particular audiobook edition, but it didn't have an author's note, and usually there's an author's note at the end talking about the research and the historical sources that she's used, but none of that was present at the end of this edition that I listened to. And the second audiobook that I started and finished was Clown in a Cornfield, and that was on the suggestion of Shannon over at Head in the Books. I've heard great things about it, and I did enjoy it, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading the sequel whenever that comes out and I can get my hands on it. But it did feel kind of pro-gun rhetoric. Like, there was this whole thing of like, the only reason they were okay is because the good guys had a gun, and that's the the rhetoric you often hear coming out of pro-gun people in the US is like, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is for a good guy to have a gun, and that was kind of what happened in the story. And I did think the ending was kind of convoluted, but then it had that classic slasher movie feel to it, and I felt like it didn't pull any punches with the deaths. So that was good. And I'm going to stretch the prompt that requires me to read a book with archers in it and use it for this book, because there are people that use crossbows, and that's an archer in a modern context anyway. I mean, I could also apply that to Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone, because I think one of the characters has a bow, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And that's all the books that I have finished for the moment, but I feel like I am making good progress. I'm still reading Nate Plus One. I don't think I even said that I was reading that, but I'm reading Nate Plus One, really enjoying it, really sweet. It isn't quite as fake datey as I thought, but it's still got that nice sizzling tension of these characters like each other, but they don't know that they like each other. And I am also continuing on with Harriet Stoker, really enjoying it, feeling like I don't really know what's coming, but in the best way possible. It's my birthday!
We know. Told us, done this before, sorry.
It wasn't filming, that's why B's being sarcastic. He's just off camera, just watching me, because I've got gifts from him, gifts from Shannon, and then a random box from another friend. I don't often get a lot of presents at my birthday, so like I'm super hyped that I do have a wee stack. It makes me so happy.
Show them the one you've already opened.
Yes, so because I forgot to press play, I've already opened one, and it's this adorable little figurine. How cute is that? That is so freaking cute. I think I was also saying I've got axe throwing with Shannon and B soon, so I need to like get through them fairly quickly, but I wanted to do an unboxing in this vlog. So
I'm guessing I can't go axe throwing like this.
B's in the middle of getting ready. Just because we are not putting that on camera on YouTube. Am I opening your other gift next?
Oh no, are you?
Well, would you like me to open your... Shall I open one of Shannon's?
If you want, which...
It's that pile of three. Because Shannon absolutely spoils me.
1,
okay.
2, 3.
Okay, let's see what we got. In the paper bag. Oh my gosh, it's like really
in a paper
tough.
bag that you seem to be struggling to open more than the box.
It's very sticky. It's a t-shirt. Oh, it's non-binary cats.
Ah.
Look at that. I love it. It's been on my wish list for a while, but how cool. I love it so much. Look at those cats all saying they, them.
One's
So
saying
cute.
meow at the bottom.
Oh, sorry. They, there, them. Meow. And oh, am I opening another Shannon? Let's see what else. Shannon absolutely spoils me. She's so sweet and she really doesn't need to spoil me. We've got 2 books in here. What have we got? Ooh, we've got the fine print and bitter. Awesome.
Ooh, I like a pint of bitter, I do.
So this is like a prequel to Pet, which just means that I need to like read Pet sooner. And this one is kind of like, I think it's they're called like the Billionaire Romance or something. And it's like based on like Disneyland airs or something. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm super... Oh, Bee's like, Clem, open another one of my presents. Okay. Oh, Bee's saying, watch the time, stop chatting so much.
Coffee
Bee's
shop.
got me the last of the I Hear the Sunspot. So now I just need to get the first volume because I read that digitally. But I have now got 4 out of 5 of the I Hear the Sunspot. So happy. And what else is in here? Bee's got me new tarot deck. It's the Cthulhu tarot deck. Oh, and that's what it looks like on the back. Very excited to use this. I would say I'm trying to learn tarot, but it's a very, very slow process. And the final thing, which goes quite well with the Cthulhu tarot deck, is he's got me another figurine. And I'm not going to open it because of time constraints, but just know that basically it's like the kitty catty, but a Cthulhu one. No, this one's fragile. Okay.
Too late, sorry.
And I'm guessing this one's going to have the age restricted thing in. Unless that steamy romance was age restricted.
Is booze, I wonder.
Ooh, it is booze. Ooh. Is this going to be the... Sorry, B.
Oh,
it's going to be the Hotel Chocolate.
You have a note.
Oh, I have notes.
Well, you have... Oh, it's just...
Oh, I love this. I'm pretty sure this is the Hotel Chocolate.
Jesus Christ, they've packed that insanely well.
It's a glass bottle.
I know.
It is. It's the Hotel Chocolat Espresso Martini. Ooh. And I love that because for my birthday last year, like a little bit after my birthday, Shannon came over to mine and we managed to finish a bottle of this. It is absolutely delicious.
Amongst other things.
Yes. It tastes like coffee milkshake and just very, very tasty. Oh, I'm being shoved along and we've got one more present to open.
Box, I think.
And this is from one of my friends. I'm so excited for Axe Throwing as well. Ooh! Awesome! Monopoly Soul Losers! I cannot wait to play this. I've had my eye on it for so long. And it just sounds like it's going to be just a barrel of laughs. So that is all of my birthday presents. Now I need to finish getting ready and head off to Axe Throwing. So I guess see you in a bit. Well, it looks like Axe Throwing may not happen today as somehow we managed to get completely confused about where it is. But it seems like everyone in the area thinks it's in this place and it's not. So we're not the only ones to be completely confused. And the business has no phone number. So I've got no way of contacting them in an immediate way to be like, is there any chance I can move it? So I would say there's maybe a 50-50 chance we'll manage to do it today. But even then, I don't know. I guess we'll see how good their customer service is.
If you're in the moonlight, I could be the daylight. Couple miles left, let's go. Pulling up a coffee stand, I was up on my left. You were searching like a ghost. I was sitting paralyzed, you were thinking more or less. Sitting in the mustache wrong, you were like a go. Another mile like oh. Hair was looking
So I guess I should probably update you on the final 2 books that I finished this week and haven't given thoughts. So one of them was Nate Plus One by Kevin Van Wy. I thought it was going to be a fake dating situation, but it's more of just a best friends to lovers kind of situation. I really enjoyed it. I thought the romance was lovely. I loved seeing South Africa through our protagonist's eyes. I just thought they were a really sweet couple. The only thing is that it felt like the ending kind of fizzled. I was expecting something a bit more like, I guess the best way to describe it is those cinematic scenes where it's like a big moment and the confetti comes down from the ceiling. I was really hoping for something like that, and instead it was a much quieter, just kind of ending. I'm not opposed to open endings, but I was just hoping for a bit more from the ending to this book. So that let me down a little bit, but otherwise a really fun, great book to enjoy. And the other book that I finished, it took me basically 2 weeks to read it because I was reading it before bed and I just kept going to sleep way too quickly. And that was The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun to see a protagonist who wasn't the nicest. I really enjoyed the take on the ghosts. It felt really unusual that everyone was dead and ghostly and there was all these cool things going on with the ghosts. And the ending left me completely shocked. It was such a fun book to read, and I'm so glad that Shannon picked it as our buddy read for this month. As for where I am at with the Readathon, I'm not 100% sure of what quests there are. So any books that I haven't assigned to prompts, I will probably go back in either week 3 or 4 and just come up with what quests I could use them for. But there are 5 prompts that I have to complete to like pass the Readathon. It's very easy breezy, and the character I've created has made a pact with the goddess of fate. So if they don't pass the class, they'll just be like, well, it just wasn't meant to be, kind of thing. So thankfully, I've got a very chill readathon of it. But the prompts that I've managed to fulfill so far are L in the title, and for that I'm using Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. Loved it so much. It was such a good book. I cannot wait for the Shadow Cabinet to come out next year. I also needed a book that features archers or rangers, and as I said earlier in the video, I'm going to be stretching it ever so slightly and using Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Caesar for this prompt. I needed to generate a random colour from a colour wheel, and the colour I got was green. So the book I'm using for that is The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James. I needed to read a TBR there, and for that I read One by One by Ruth Ware. And the final prompt that I've managed to successfully fulfill so far is a book with a single object focus, and for that I read Starvaker, and I can never remember the name of the author. I think it's Andrew Michael Hurley, but I could be wrong. There should be a picture on screen at this point anyway, so I apologise if I've got the author's name wrong. The final prompt that I need to complete for my classes is to start a book with a drink. This should be the easiest prompt and I should have already ticked it off, but I just keep forgetting to have a drink when I start a book, and I'm just being very strict with myself and not allowing any wiggle room. I have to start a book at the same time as I have a drink. Yeah, so I feel like my magical readathon's going really well. I feel like I'm getting back into the reading groove, which is absolutely amazing. Also, I just generally had a really fun week. Like ending my week with my birthday and going axe throwing, even though I was absolutely awful at it, was just so much fun. And I just thank Shannon and B for being on board to come axe throwing with me. But that's week 2 of the Magical Readathon. So, love you. Bye.
There's a place